Do people in Canada have cable, like other people?
We keep this up in the playoffs. I don't care.
And at Chili's. Is it a Chili's? At Kyle?
Achilles.
Finally.
You don't know that?
Fuck you! Get this guy the fuck out of here!
Alright, well, coming in at number 5, I got Anthony Stolars.
Now! Jets are winning the cup!
Thank you for watching and listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the NORDCAST. It is episode number 78, and it is Thursday, November 14th, 2024. I am your host, Nordic, joined with Jack. You guys know who
That's
Jack
right.
is at this point?
You heard that right. It's Jack.
His first episode since September 18th when we had Mike Bartner on to talk about hot takes and predictions.
Jeez.
This man's been busy. Where the hell have you been, dude?
Well, as you may know, I've been at college. I go to Illinois State University, Roll Birds. I'm on the radio station here, and then I also play intramural basketball, so those things have been keeping me pretty busy. But yeah, I mean, I'm back.
What do you do on this radio station? This is the first time I'm actually hearing about you being on the radio.
Yeah, so it's actually like a pretty big radio station like around the area. It's a university radio station. It's called WZND 103.3. And I do like news and sports for them. So I'll write articles. I'll go on, talk news and sports. And then I have like a thing I do on Friday mornings where I do like a newscast. So I just cover all like local news, little bit of national news, and then ISU sports, and then like Chicago sports, St. Louis sports, which are like the cities that are, well, like my university is like right in between St. Louis and Chicago. So
Yeah.
we cover both those cities.
That's pretty sick. What is it called again? I'll put a link in the description if
It's
I can.
103.3 WZND.
WZND. Cool, man. I actually didn't even know you were doing that. That shows how
Yeah,
bad
sweet.
I am.
I've had a blast doing it. So
That's great, man. At least you're doing something fun and not just trying to avoid us. All right. Well, no Carter here, as you can tell. Carter's funny enough. We make fun of Jack for missing us for school, but Carter is missing us today, missing Jack's first episode, because of school. Guys got a project to do. Caught up in junior hockey and work, so we let him sit on an episode. But this is our first episode of November. The way November's been is kind of weird. We had an episode that was planned last week, but unfortunately, like a lot of our episodes, they fell through. We do have a special interview here for you guys that we were going to air last week, but we're going to do it this week. It is with a YouTuber with 16,000 subscribers, Twisted Wrister Hockey. You may have known him previously, but it's the start of a new thing that the NORDCAST and I am doing. Is we're going to interview hockey YouTubers around YouTube and kind of hear their story about going through content creation and things like that. So that's a new thing that we're doing. But first, we have a couple of things we got to talk about, and a lot of like big name news around the NHL. So we're going to start off with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Jack, it's over. I think this run is over. And we knew this for a while. We knew that the Penguins were honestly, like, you look at them, they weren't a contending team. They missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons. Yes, they came close, but it's pretty clear that they're not. And after a six goal first period allowed against the Dallas Stars, where they ended up losing 7-1. Yeah, absolutely brutal. Kyle Dubas came out and made it pretty clear that everybody except for Sidney Crosby is available, and everyone. And that includes Malkin, that includes Carlson, that includes Letang, that includes Jari, that includes everyone on this team except for number 87. Well, we're going to go through a lot of those guys today, and I hate to break it to you, Jack, and I'm sure you're just devastated to hear this. As a Blackhawks fan who was like, your team was good when Pittsburgh was good too, so it's kind of funny, they're both starting to get really bad now, but they have like almost nobody they can really sell.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest with you. You have a few depth options that you can maybe move on from if you have the balls. If Kyle Dubas has the balls to trade Evgeny Malkin, then that is an option there too. You can maybe get a haul for him. But apart from him and like Marcus Pettersson, it's going to be hard to move some of these players.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, making Crosby untouchable kind of doesn't make sense to me. I mean, that's going to be your biggest asset. I know he's been there for a while. He's the captain. But I mean, you're going to get so much in return for that. And you got to start at some point. I mean, there were talks of them selling last year. They didn't do that. And then I believe they just missed the playoffs still. So, I mean, it's just very interesting to me how they're not making him tradable. So, yeah.
I think a lot of it is just because Crosby doesn't want to go. He signed a contract. He
Okay.
wants to stay with the team. I think he cares more about his legacy with the Pittsburgh Penguins than he does going to another team and going to win a Stanley Cup, which shows how great of a person, how great of a captain that
Yeah,
Crosby
for
is.
sure.
But come on, if you traded him, no matter how old he is, you're getting a haul
Yeah.
for.
You're still, yeah. So
Yeah.
many picks. I mean, that would set them up.
It would, but at the same time, it really does kickstart the rebuild. But this definitely is going to kickstart the rebuild. But again, as we said, they don't have a lot of guys to really give up. Like
Yeah.
Marcus Pettersson is probably their best option right now. You could probably get a first round pick for him with how dry the defensive market is. But apart from that, you're looking at like Anthony Beauvillier, Drew O'Connor, Michael Bunting. You could get something for, but he's struggling this season. Unless if you can make a move for Carlson, which you're gonna have to eat up some money for. Like if you're gonna
Yeah.
move Malkin or Carlson or Letang, you're gonna have to eat up money for them. So it's not gonna be something that just happens overnight. Like that's gonna be a whole process. And Jack, I don't think anyone's gonna go out and want to get Carlson's contract.
No, I
10 million
highly
dollars
doubt
for the next
that.
3 years.
No.
I can't see it. And for somebody like him, who even an old coach from Team Sweden comes out and says, "I don't think Carlson should be on the Four Nations team," I think that speaks a lot for like just not how good Carlson has been. And listen, he's good offensively, has 10 points so far this year. He looks like like he's probably one of the best players in Swedish history, if we're being
Yeah.
honest. And that was something that was talked about. I think he probably should be on Four Nations just because of that. But at this point, he's not that good defensively.
Hmm.
Look at like defense wins championships. That's a big motto. And I think Carlson, there's a reason why the guy's never won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to like discredit him there, but again, like it shows that yeah, it just shows that with him, like it's not going to work. And then the other guys that I haven't even really mentioned, we mentioned like the big name guys of Malkin, Carlson. Those are guys that expire within the next 3 seasons. You have five of their other big name guys don't expire until almost 2030. You have Brian Rust until 2028, Ricard Raquel till 2028. You have Letang till 2028. You have Tristan Jarry, who's been god awful till 2028, and then Ryan Graves until 2029. So you have guys there essentially that are on long-term deals and you are not going to move them at all.
Yep.
So what else I'm wondering about is maybe Mike Sullivan, the coach of the Penguins, finds himself out because there's no way, and we're going to talk about Nashville later on here because I want to talk about them too. But there's no way that you look in terms of this team and say, oh, maybe let's make a coaching change and try and flip things that way. I think a lot of why they can't do some of these things is Crosby. Crosby won't let them. That's why. Like seriously. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the Penguins really do. I don't really think they can move on from a lot of these guys, but I could be wrong. A lot of their guys really are not performing whatsoever. You're not going to get big hauls. They did trade Lars Eller for 2 picks to Washington, which was a good deal for them. But overall, like you're probably going to get that return at best like 5 times over for half of these guys, to be
Yeah.
honest. So with Pittsburgh, realistically, unless if they get like Gavin McKenna or like James Higgins at the end of next year, which would not surprise me at all, them getting a first overall pick. I think this team is in for a world of crap.
Yeah. It's probably going to be the next 5 years until they start like signing guys again. And I mean, it's
Yeah,
going to be a long time.
the whole it's just like Chicago, just like how
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah. We
Kinda,
started earlier, but
yeah, you did, but you also realized when it was the right time
yeah.
to
And
be like,
that's
yeah,
when Kane went, DeBrincat went.
yeah, exactly. You realized at a point where you're like, yeah, it's time to tear this thing down.
Yeah.
It happens. It always happens. And I think it's Pittsburgh's time to do that. Like we saw how bad Chicago was, and they're like after their teardown year where they traded Kane, they moved to Brinkett last offseason. They let go, like Duncan Keith was already gone.
Fleury was on the team.
Fleury was on the team. Yeah, that's right. I completely forgot about that. But
Yeah.
look at like how that team was then, and it's funny because we're talking about like the two best teams of the 2010s. Like the Blackhawks accepted that their time was done essentially after a couple of years of just kind of like missing the playoffs by a little bit, not making it, being a little iffy. And in Pittsburgh's case, they really haven't come to terms with that yet, and I think they finally are here now. So that is something that I think we're going to be watching a lot. But again, we've talked about Pittsburgh, and I think almost every single episode since
Yeah.
the season has started.
I've been
Again,
listening, yeah.
yeah, we brought on Seth last episode to talk about them. It just seems like they're making more and more headlines. Don't be surprised if we're back on next week talking about them. So that's what I'll wrap up with. Any more thoughts on the Penguins?
Yeah, I mean, just a mess.
Yeah, just a mess. Full of crap. Let's talk about another team that is full of crap, the Nashville Predators. Jack, did you see this coming at all?
No, not at all. Especially after the year they had last year, and you bring in more guys, like established, like possibly all-star guys, and just this kind of season. I mean,
They're
really?
worse than Chicago. They're
What's
worse
up?
than you guys.
Oh yeah, they are.
Easy.
They're last
They
place in
are
the Central.
they are tied for not even last in Central, last in the league. Tied for last in
Okay, yeah.
with ironically enough, the other three teams that are last in their divisions, respectfully, they are 5-9-2. This team has been pretty horrendous. The guys that have come in have seemingly looked not that good, like Brady Shea. That does not look like a $7 million player. That turnover. Did you see that turnover against
Yeah.
Colorado?
Yeah, my gosh.
He is toast. And so is the Predators. And it's funny because we talk about Pittsburgh today. Well, Barry Trotz came out last week, and this is kind of sucks because, like, and then when we don't record an episode, we miss so much. But Barry Trotz came out last week and said if they don't start winning, they're going to start the rebuilding process, which is mind-boggling to think because they have Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea, amongst other players too, on long-term deals. So I wouldn't say they're the Western Conference version of the Pittsburgh Penguins because they can definitely turn this around, but they're not in a much better situation because they have all those guys on long-term contracts. You aren't trading half of them, being blatantly honest.
Yeah.
So I would be shocked if they really do go into this rebuild, but I also think that you got to give it a little bit of time. I think if we get to the point where we're at the end of December and they're still last in the league or close to last in the league and they haven't picked it up, I think that we are going to see these changes happen. But I think right now, I think that you need to give it a little bit more time. And especially, too, like, you look at Andrew Brunette, again with Mike Sullivan, like there's no way you're going to just tear down your entire team without saying, oh, let's maybe make a coaching change like every other team in the league would if they were struggling out of the gate and try and, fix the team that way. And then if it doesn't work, then you can trade them at the trade deadline. I don't understand why Barry Trotz won't do that just yet. But maybe it's coming. Maybe it's going to happen. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But again, like with all those new guys they got too, it puts them in a really rough situation. And they spent so much money.
It reminds me of the Hawks just a little bit, what we did in 2021, like bringing in guys like Tyler Johnson, Fleury, like as we said. And I mean, like high expectations, obviously. Like these guys still got it. Like Fleury's coming off a Vezina year. Stamkos coming off a great year. Even like Marchessault, like they still got it. And I mean, they started off 0-5. I mean, just brutal.
The Blackhawks comparisons are crazy. You can tell Jack is back because we're talking about the Blackhawks every other.
That's right.
Every other second. But I actually kind of agree with you because you do compare it to then like you could compare like Marchessault and Stamkos to kind of like Fleury, and you could compare like Shea to Jones when Jones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Jones came in there too. I mean, yeah, like it took us like 6 games to win our first too. So
yeah, so it's actually pretty similar to that. That's a pretty good comparison there. But again, like it just shows that maybe you don't need to make all these moves to be really good. We thought they were going to be so good out of the gate too. Yeah. But again, I've seen a lot of people say as well that you're bringing in a couple of guys who have been used to pretty like unique systems. I think like Stamkos was there in Tampa for his entire career. He's never learned anything otherwise than what John Cooper has told him. Then playing with Kucherov, then playing with Hedman. Marchessault's been around the league a little bit, but the guy's been there since Vegas's first season.
Yeah.
And he's been through more coaches than others, but he's a Stanley Cup winner. Both these guys are Cup winners, and I think they're all used to a system, and they're all relatively older in age where they don't really know how to maybe work in these Nashville systems that Brunette is telling them to, and maybe that's why they're really being affected. But I don't know. We're going to see what happens with Nashville. I think it's still a little bit too early. You want to give it some more time. But if this does continue, I think they might realize, yeah, we might have put ourselves in a huge hole here, and maybe they will start the rebuilding process. But I can't imagine they wouldn't at least try and make a coaching change before starting to tear everything down.
Yeah.
But again, Jack, I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So. All right, let's move on from a team that spent $100 million in free agency to a team that only spent, I think, $8 million in free agency, and they're first in the league. The Winnipeg Jets are making NHL history. They have the best record in the NHL right now. I know they are losing to Tampa currently, which makes this look like not that great.
Yeah, what's the score of that game now?
It's 3-1 Lightning. So
Okay.
I'm sure that's probably why Carter avoided us because he knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But
and the Eagles are on. So.
Oh, are the Eagles losing too? Oh,
let's see. Yeah, they are.
yeah. Well, the Commanders are good, so I'm not surprised. This is where they start becoming frauds, like last season. Anyways, the Winnipeg Jets are making history. They are the first team ever to have a 15-1 record to start a season, beating out like the Boston Bruins 2 seasons ago, where they had the best record in the league, beating out the Montreal Canadiens, who had only 8 losses in 1976-77, beating out the very good Oilers teams, the very good Penguins teams, the very good Blackhawks teams. This team is unreal. This team is just unreal, and nobody saw this coming. Connor Hellebuck looks like a Vezina winning goalie. Kyle O'Connor is unreal. Josh Morrissey looks like a Norris defenseman. It's crazy, Jack. It's crazy. And as somebody who saw a near win for the Blackhawks go away with 30 seconds left, how are you feeling about this Winnipeg Jets run?
Yeah, I mean, they just look incredible. And I mean, that was the first week of the season. That could have been a little fluky for them, but I mean, yeah, we were 30 seconds away from beating them, which is wild to think. But yeah, Carter said what, 20 wins by the end of November?
That was his take.
I'll take his word for it, especially if they come back and win a night. I mean, it's very doable, which is ridiculous. I mean,
100%. I would take that too. I wish Carter was here because I would place a bet with him to see if that actually happens. But I really do think that is very possible.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, like Winnipeg just looks incredible. There's really nothing else to say. Again, like we are really mentioning the same teams over and over again. Like we talked about Winnipeg the last couple of episodes. We talked about Pittsburgh the last couple of episodes. We just love talking about these two teams because of how good and how bad they are polarizingly. Again, I do promise that we will be talking about other teams in the future, but yeah, right now, just those teams seem to be making a ton of headlines so far this year. And that's where we're going to turn it over to this interview. I know we kind of just spent about 20, maybe 30 minutes talking about, maybe not even 20 minutes, talking about the Penguins, the Predators, and the Jets. But I'm going to send it over to Twisted Wrist for Hockey, where he's going to talk a little bit about the San Jose Sharks, his journey with YouTube, and a lot of other stuff. So without further ado, here is the Twisted Wrist for Hockey interview. All right, we are joined here today on episode number 78 of the NORDCAST with a YouTuber here. He has 16,000 subscribers, has made almost 700 videos since he got in 2018. That's at least your most recent public video. We have Big Sharks guy here, Twisted Wrister Hockey, aka Nick. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm fantastic, Evan, and thank you for bringing me on your show.
Of course. So the first question that I got to ask you, how many jerseys do you have? You got a big rack there behind you. I see all the pennants set up. It's a very nice setup you got, but how many jerseys do you have back there in total?
Yeah, I think I actually have been selling them a little more the last 2 years. Not a ton of them, but I have. Oh shoot! I gotta show you the jersey closet. If you just give me one moment. I mean, it's right here. I just gotta tilt the camera over.
Okay.
But I think I topped out at about, I don't know, 130 or so. Now I'm down to like closer to 110. A lot of those are Sharks jerseys. And now it's to the point where I don't have a Blue Jackets jersey because I've sold mine. I don't have an actual Avalanche jersey. I used to have 4 of those, but I've sold all of those as well. But I mostly have NHL jerseys, and I have just some odd ones here and there. Like for my local hockey team, that's the Spokane Chiefs in the WHL. I've collected like the Seattle Thunderbirds. I've gone to a game over there. When I went to Orlando a few years ago, I went to a Solar Bears game, and as you know, they play in the ECHL, so I had to get one of those jerseys. Tremendous jerseys back in those days. But yeah, I'll show you what that looks like.
Awesome. Yeah, I watch a lot of your videos and I see all the jerseys set up in the back, and it's just so impressive. I only have like, I think 50.
Hey, that's pretty great.
More than average. Oh my goodness. It's all
Yeah.
Sharks.
Yeah, we'll get the Sharks
That's
there.
awesome.
And then you might be able to see, like, if I tilted it more this way, there you go.
Yeah. There's the rest of them. Wow.
Yeah.
Are they all in like alphabetical order, or are they like by division?
I've done that before. I haven't really organized them recently, but yeah, I've had some fun setting it up like that in the past.
Awesome. Well, where did this all start? How did you get into hockey as somebody who lives in Spokane?
I do now. Yeah. I grew up about 60 minutes south of San Jose, so
Okay.
I did go to some Sharks games when I was a kid, but like hockey wasn't my favorite sport. I watched basketball for I was a big basketball fan at one point. I was a big football fan at one point, big baseball fan at one point. But really, what did it was one of my best friends from high school was my roommate my freshman year in college, and I like to tell people that he properly indoctrinated me as a diehard Sharks fan, and then I started following the NHL even more. So actually, his dad used to run a landscaping business, and one of his clients was what was his name? Greg Jameson, one of the former owners of the team. And so
really?
you get tickets, and so my buddy was super into the Sharks. I'd be trying to like study for a test or do homework in our dorm room, and he would just he couldn't care less. He would just crank up the volume, and he'd be screaming at the TV, and so it became kind of a ritual for us. I remember one time we went out to dinner with some friends, and then we just like threw some cash on the table because the Sharks were playing their first game of the season. We ran back from the other side of campus so we could catch the game. So I got into it then. He actually played on our university's club ice hockey team, and I was kind of like they called me like a team manager, and because I never played it myself, and I really enjoyed kind of just hanging out at the rink and how people around me were talking about the Sharks and about the NHL in general. And so I started watching more games on TV, following the league more, going to a lot more Sharks games. And yeah, I mean, I certainly do miss it where I am right now. But of course, I do have some sort of hockey where I live, watching the Spokane Chiefs in the WHL. That's where Berkeley Catton, the first overall pick for the first pick for the Seattle Kraken in this past draft, that's where he's playing right now.
How far is Spokane from Seattle?
It's about a 4.5 hour drive.
Okay. I knew they were in the same region of like, are they in the same state? I'm sorry, I don't really know. I live in the East Coast. Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah. So Seattle obviously is on the water. And then across the state, basically on the border of Idaho, where I technically live on the Idaho side, that's where Spokane is.
Have you made it out to a Seattle game yet?
I did 3 years ago. I didn't have anybody in town. I just road tripped over there, and I did like a 3-team tour. So this was basically this time last year. Started with the Seattle Kraken game. Next day, I went to see Matt Rempe and the Seattle Thunderbirds playing against Logan Stankoven and the Kamloops Blazers. And then the next day, I went to what do they call it now? Lumen Field, where the Seahawks play. So I wanted to see what that was all about because I've always heard amazing things.
That's awesome. I love I love doing those little trips, but man, they're just so expensive. Like going to all those different places. But so when you got into hockey in college, what was that timeline? I don't mean to make you feel old. Was it like late 2000s, back when the team was, a little before the big cup run in 2016?
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah. I was in school from '06 to 2010. So, and the funny thing was, I graduated just a little bit early, and I'd always wanted to work in sports, and we can have some fun conversation around that. And I got a job in ticket sales with the Chicago Fire of Major League Soccer. So I moved over there, and I kind of liked how the Blackhawks were putting their team together. And it was funny when I got there at the apartment complex I was going to stay at. The leasing agent told me that I could actually have my room painted, my walls painted whatever color I wanted. And so then I just like looked at this book, and they had these elaborate color palettes, and I'm like, I'll take this, thank you. And it turned out that not too much later, the Sharks actually played the Blackhawks in the conference final and got their butts swept. And I like to tell people that I think I was the only Sharks fan in a city of like 2.7 million people. It was a very lonely time in my life, of course, but yeah, it was cool. Still being able to find ways to watch my team, and now living out of state, I have my means for doing that as well. So I can't take that away from who I am, I guess.
What was it like? I'm going to jump a little bit forward in time, but what was it like experiencing that 2016 Cup run?
It was surprising. For some reason, I tell people I don't think that was necessarily the best team that they ever had. I think part of it is because they had more weapons, I think, in previous years. Somebody like Danny Heatley was on the team, or even Ryan Clough was a good power forward for a hot minute there. But yeah, it was kind of like, whoa, where's this team coming from? I mean, first round, they're supposed to get worked by the LA Kings. A lot of people picked the Kings to win the Stanley Cup that year, and the Sharks just shut them down completely. They play Nashville, they win 7 games in that was a crazy series, and then they play the Blues in the conference final, and I'm thinking like, okay, like we might have a shot against these guys. We get to the final, and I actually at that point I thought, wow, like are we really the team of destiny here? And then it was a rude awakening. The Penguins just came out immediately and dominated possession. They dominated shots. So it was, it was a little tough in the moment, of course, experiencing a Stanley Cup loss. We haven't made the final otherwise, but I knew immediately that like this team had achieved something great already, getting us to that point and doing so when we didn't expect it, which was kind of nice. And then, what was I trying to say there? I'm not sure, but I actually went to Game 4. I really wish I went to Game 3 because the Sharks won Game 3 in overtime, and then in Game 4 they just could not get much going offensively, and they lost that. So unfortunately, I'm 0-1 in the Stanley Cup final. However, I am 2-0 in the World Series.
Oh, really? When did you? We're going so off topic. When did you go to the World Series? What year?
Yeah, so well, growing up or living in the Bay Area, and growing up south of there, I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. So the Giants went in 2002. I didn't go to that, but then they returned in 2010. So my parents and I went to Game 1, and then 2012 came around. My dad took my sister to Game 1, which was a crazy, amazing game. And then in 2014, I returned the favor for my dad by getting us tickets. And so we saw Game 5, and Madison Bumgarner pitched, I think, like a 4-hit shutout then. And the Giants won, of course, in 7 games over the Royals. So it's kind of like, all right, I'm good for baseball. I don't know. I'm not so sure about hockey, though.
Well, don't worry. You got plenty of time remaining in your life for you to go out and get to see some more games. Even though it might feel like you're a lifetime away from seeing the Sharks in the playoffs, we'll get there eventually. So coming into when you got into YouTube. So we just got done with 2016 with the Cup run. Now you're getting into the point where you start making videos. What made you want to start making videos on YouTube?
Yeah.
Was it a YouTuber that inspired you? Was it just kind of like, oh, I want to make content, or what was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a story that you probably hear from other creators out there. We were watching The Hockey Guy. I was watching Neil's channel, Post to Post,
Yes.
watching Justin when he had Hands Down Hockey. In addition to other sports content creators like Urinating Tree, for example, and he creates some hockey content. Same thing, like 5 Points videos. And at the same time, I was working. My job was in video production. And so I thought to myself, all right, well, like I love hockey and I follow the NHL. I don't have too many friends who are into the sport that much. I have some friends who like the Sharks, but it's kind of like they come to me and then I kind of, get them caught up in that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I thought, this is a good opportunity for me to sort of have hockey conversations with others. And, it just started with me with my laptop using the webcam. And then eventually I, started kind of making, it almost seems like PowerPoint presentations just because my editing and graphical skills were, primitive at that point. I wasn't using like Adobe Premiere like I do now or spending as much time. But I enjoyed that. And there came, collecting jerseys and eventually running live streams. And, now I've made some videos that have, where I've sunk well over 100 hours into them. And at the same time, doing fun things like making predictions for the playoffs. So, I mean, there's a lot of different content that I've made over this time. And I thought to myself that it'd be kind of cool to have like 2,500 subscribers or 3,000 subscribers. And then, there were some great points where, I was able to, have my channel was able to grow somewhat and that I was able to, make some money off of it too. So that, I mean, that's always a plus when, as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, so it's good for content creators to always make sure that, it's like, hey, am I enjoying this, before you, really just kind of strain yourself for your time and your vitality sort of.
Yeah. What was the one, what was the one video or the certain period of time when you were making videos where you started realizing, hey, maybe I can really make something big out of this? Because again, you said like, oh, it's nice to get to 2,500 subscribers, but now you're at 16,000. So where was that one point where you were like, oh, wow, like this could really become something here?
I think the first time I thought that was actually in the 2019 playoffs. It's so funny because here I am. My team's going to miss the playoffs for a 6th year in a row. But Jesus. When my channel was very young and I only had like 150 subscribers or something like that, the Sharks were actually in the playoffs. So I was at Game 7 in the first round against the Golden Knights, and I actually did film some of it. And so it was crazy when I uploaded that video. I think it was 2:40 in the morning, so I had worked on it after I returned home from the game. I wake up and, it was crazy just seeing how many views it had received versus my typical video. My typical video was like 300 or something. I woke up, it was, like 2,000 or something like that. And so I was like, whoa, this is crazy. How did that happen? And even one time I was a half season ticket holder that year. So I went to a bunch more playoff games. I just remember one time somebody came up to me outside of the arena and they were like, hey, I saw you on YouTube. And so, that's when you start thinking like, whoa, I mean, am I getting ahead of myself here a little bit? So there was that. The next year I started running live streams and, it was really cool sort of building a small, but like a really fun community of hockey fans. And I think that in more recent times, what really sort of assured that my efforts were, paying off somewhat was when was at toward the start of last year. I had actually started a second channel called Sudden Death Sports. I wanted to make a sports history channel. The first video was a career video about Raffi Torres, who is, one of the most notorious players of, just kind of like in the middle of, I'd say, like the 2000s into the 2010s, right? And that video had just exploded in viewership. Unfortunately, got age restricted, which was horrible because then that just takes off all your momentum. But seeing those early views come in, I had never seen something like that with one of my videos. Not immediately like that. So that's when I thought to myself, wow, I could actually make this sports content, this historical stuff, talk about controversial players or amazing playoff series. And so then I just kind of ran with that for a while. And then about a year after that, so toward the beginning of this year, I made a similar video about Link Gates, who only lasted, I think, something like, what was it? Not even 80 games. He didn't last even a full season in the NHL. He played like a couple seasons, just not full seasons. Last one kind of, maybe it was 65 games. But I mean, even though I made this back in February, I'm still getting like over 500 views a day just on that video. And so, I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, wow, I just want to do this. This is too much fun. And I made some other videos that performed pretty well for me too. And coming back to something I said earlier, it was that I was enjoying making those videos a lot. I want to make that clear. So I made one on the rivalry between the Canadiens and the Nordiques in the 1980s. I loved stretching back a couple decades and doing that sort of thing. So I made some more productions like that. And I'd like to focus more on that more these days. It's going to be more difficult for me to kind of find the time for that. But I mean, that sort of thing. I mean, when I see that my Link Gates video has 250,000 views, I mean, I'm just shocked by that.
I was about to mention that when you wrapped up, because that is your most popular video, like by far, over 100,000 views more than your second most popular one. And I also see here too the one about the Nordiques as well. So it's just terrific, some of the things that you've put together. And you've been doing this for so long. It's great that your work has really paid off. So some of these ideas that you have, finding somebody like Link Gates, coming up with the Nordiques versus Canadiens rivalry. How do you kind of come up with these? Do you kind of search through kind of like history documentaries? Do you like read books? Because I know there's some people who do that. I'm a victim of doing that as well. How do you kind of come up with these videos? Not to spoil your secrets or anything.
Well, I think that's fantastic. And sometimes I get ideas based on that as well. Like I have this one awesome book. Are you familiar with sportslogos.net?
I think I've heard of it.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's basically this incredible library of each professional and collegiate, like every sports franchise you can imagine. Probably even the Danbury Trashers, as far as I know. They have their own page where you can actually see their history for logos and branding. And the owner of that site actually recently, I think last year, published a book called Fabric of the Game. So he's focusing specifically on hockey jerseys.
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
I do have that book. I have like two of them behind me.
Yeah, I love that book. And I found it walking into a bookstore here. It was, I felt just very lucky, very fortunate, because I'd been meaning to get that. But I'll read through it and then I'll maybe pick up some ideas based on that, or I'll use it as a resource. But a lot of the time, I do get a lot of great suggestions from the viewers on my channel. And so, and you know, I won't necessarily always take a specific idea. I'll take maybe their idea and then I'll sort of take the theme of it, right? Whether that's a controversial figure or, you know, somebody wants me to talk about the Arizona Coyotes, why it didn't work out in Arizona. To me, you know, I know that would probably get a lot of views, but I never really was all that interested in following that storyline just because so many other people were talking about it. It wasn't something that I personally was energized about. So maybe I would talk about the Hartford Whalers leaving Hartford, for example. There hadn't been a very in-depth, rich feature on YouTube for that sort of thing. Of course, unfortunately, I'd used footage from another documentary outside of YouTube, and I had to take the video down. But people loved it. That's the great thing. But I always enjoy when I'm producing something in depth like that. I do love watching other videos out there and sort of stitching together stories and accounts and you know, incredible moments that you might see. You pull a little bit from one video, you pull a little bit from another video, and then I do a ton of article reading, you know, traversing publications dating back decades and decades, and so yeah, it's I don't like to leave a stone unturned when I do lock in on an idea.
Well, you do a great job. I will say that 100%. You do a great job with all the videos you make. Now, you mentioned that you also spend a lot of time, you know, editing and putting together these videos. How long does that usually take? Does it vary depending on a video, or will it take you like a day or week or a month to edit? How long do these videos usually take?
Are you specifically talking about the ones like Link Gates and the Nordiques Canadiens, or are you just saying like what sort of, how does it sort of vary based on what I'm producing?
Kind of like the history type thing with Gates and the Nordiques rivalry. How long do those usually take for you?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because I mean, it's a big difference. Yeah,
it is a broad question.
Yeah, I've put as much as I'd say about 150 hours into the denser, meatier projects. I made one over the summer about Matt Cook, and boy, that might even taken more than 150 hours. Most of that time is spent actually researching and writing. Writing to me is it's very important. That's what my background really is. And sports writing, I was doing a lot of that in college. So I spend the bulk of my time doing that. I'd say probably about, 60% is just that. And then I do take, it takes a while to sort of not just find all the video clips that you want to use, but it takes time because you have to be able to, know how to use the clips like properly to make sure you're not, committing copyright infringement. I still don't understand that all that well, but thankfully I didn't have any problems on the Link Gates video. And then of course, I do want to also, I have some graphics that I'll produce for that, or I'll have like little text call outs and editing transitions. Some softwares are better kind of suited in terms of dragging and dropping, that sort of thing. I'm using Adobe Premiere, and I do find it to be pretty heavily manual. There are some AI tools, but that doesn't really move the needle too much. Yeah, that's how things can come together. It can take, something like that can take a month of my time. I might be using my time in other ways, or could even take 6 weeks. And so, yeah, it is an intensive project. And if you're able to do a little bit on the side just to keep your channel floating with some sort of content, even if that's a live stream, I think that's always a plus too.
Yeah, I saw you do a live stream on Monday with the Predators, the Kings, and the Oilers Devils. Did a little hangout stream. I tuned in for I think about like 20 minutes. It looks pretty good. So yeah, as long as you keep those things on the side to kind of like, keep the channel at least a little bit active, let your fans know that you didn't quit on them. Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. Now, of all the videos that you have made,
yeah,
which one might be hard for you to choose? You can choose a few, but which ones are your favorite?
I mean, it just on that subject, I look back at the video on the Nordiques and Canadiens. That one was, oh man, that was fun just because the rivalry was so nasty. So reading some of the stories and seeing some of the quotes and, interviews, that might have been a little different back then. And not to mention, it was such a geographically significant rivalry because of the beer companies that were in control of the franchises. And so that one stands out to me as among my favorites. The Raffi Torres video I mentioned earlier, that's not on my YouTube, on my Twisted Wrister. It's on Sudden Death Sports. That to me, I never had any more fun working on a project like that. I do also enjoy some of the kind of what I like to call hockey 101 content when I'm, producing stuff for like casual hockey audiences. I have a lot of people who are new to the sport that come to my channel. They might be living in a different country, and it's really cool. I didn't necessarily intend to sort of be that sort of outlet. But I've produced some content around that's really fun. I mean, even things like ranking mascots or ranking logos, or producing a fan guide. Like how do you cheer for? It's like, oh yeah, how do you figure out which team to cheer for? A lot of people look that up, and also one that is really jumping out at me. I produced a video on every NHL team's best tradition. That one, that was about a year ago. That's easily one of my favorite 10 videos I've made, if not favorite 5. And I did one on the most iconic moment for every franchise too. So like that sort of thing, I call those kind of like 32 teams videos, where I briefly discuss, address a topic as it pertains to each team. And, sometimes I get some viewer input on that stuff too.
That's definitely, the 32 videos, it really hits a demographic from every single play. And especially like the new fan videos. Like I even watched your one, like what team you should root for. I thought that was very well put together. And I think that really shows like, new fans will get into the game and they'll live in like, I don't know, again, as you said, like they'll live in Europe, or they'll even live in like Wyoming or Wisconsin, and they'll be like, what team should I really get into here? And, I think that video could really, definitely really helped out a lot of people, since that has over 100,000 views. So moving on from YouTube to the San Jose Sharks, your favorite hockey team. You probably don't get to talk about your favorite hockey team too much in a video, since you make all these like history products and stuff, which are great. But my first question is, how did it feel getting the first overall pick after all that pain that you suffered?
It was fantastic. I mean, it's great that the opportunity to draft first overall came when it did. I think it came at the right time, because the Sharks had a couple of players, more so from like the Doug Wilson regime, but somebody like William Eklund, the fans have been excited about, and he's starting to already come into his own pretty well. But we didn't have that like next level superstar, not to mention somebody who could maybe be the face of the franchise, the captain of the team. And drafting somebody well-rounded like Macklin Celebrini, I thought was pivotal for us. And so when Bedard was in his draft eligible year, between myself and some other fans out there, we're like, oh my God, like he's got to come to Columbus, he's got to come to Chicago, and he's got to come to San Jose or Anaheim. But the Sharks had finished not quite last place, so I thought we probably won't get Bedard. We got Will Smith. But then I was all in on the Slacken for Macklin movement this past year. And I'm happy that he's a Shark and playing somewhere that he did play a little bit as a kid when he was with the Junior Sharks.
You guys, with Celebrini's pick, have really set yourselves up for what could be an honestly incredible future. Will Smith, Celebrini, Eklund, Sam Dickinson, Askarov. Need I say more? Like, the amount of talent on this team, potential talent, is just incredible. And you're not even done yet. Like, you are, I think, second or third worst in the league. My Flyers are worse than you, surprisingly. But, like, there's a chance you get the first overall pick again. If you get the first overall pick again and you get, like, James Higgins, you guys are just loaded for the future. And it's remarkable to see where this team's going. And I'm all for it right now, honestly.
Yeah, it's wonderful that it took Greer, my Greer general manager, is in his third season now, and it was a little difficult at first getting a sense of like how he operated. He made, for example, he had traded away Brent Burns to the Carolina Hurricanes, and he didn't really get anything significant in return. And then he made some other big moves. He traded away Timo Meier. He traded away Tomas Hertl this last year. He traded away Erik Karlsson in the offseason a year ago. And when I looked at how he utilized his draft picks and even using some of the draft picks to negotiate other deals, especially when they traded for Askarov, that was something that I kind of anticipated. I normally don't make like trade predictions or anything, but I thought to myself, the Sharks kind of have an embarrassment of riches at center in their prospect pool. They could maybe do something with this. They have multiple first-round picks. And Greer jumps on it, makes a strong deal with the Predators, and fills a big void. The Sharks haven't had a real franchise goaltender, unless you want to maybe count Martin Jones, since Yevgeny Nabokov. So yeah, I've been able to sort of see through the trees, like where this could go for the Sharks. And you're right, they still have some work to do still. They have a young coach, the youngest in the NHL right now too, with a great track record before he came into the NHL. But you got to be patient with this stuff. And I know it's been, of course, now we're going on 6 years of no playoffs, but it's kind of like, hey, this could be a big payoff. Let's not try to cheat ourselves as we try to get to this goal.
Yeah, give the guys time. Let them develop. Let them build into those roles. And I think the longer I mean, again, like you get restless at a point. You're like, come on, let's make the playoffs. But you get to a point where like you keep making them better. You're going to get even more really good players, and there's going to be players who see what is building in San Jose, and they're going to be like, hey, I want to come to San Jose. Like you see, I don't want to say Bedard is kind of like a big example, but in Chicago, there are players who want to go to Chicago because Connor Bedard is there. There are going to be players, maybe even next offseason, who want to go to San Jose, like even like Tyler Toffoli. Guy signed a 4-year deal there in San Jose because he saw what they're building. I mean, he might not be there for the long-term plans, but he is on a 4-year deal, but he might get moved at some point, but still, like, you got guys going there that want to play for you. And I think that's a really good thing, especially for a team like the Sharks, who were kind of in no man's land until I would say last year when they really got bad.
Yeah, and getting something good in return for the Erik Karlsson trade, I think helped kind of spur some of that. And the thing the sort of outlook I have on this year is that this is kind of like an identity year. It's kind of a culture year, excuse me, where you don't have superstars on the team right now. You have some players who eventually will be there, but you have veterans like Toffoli, who's won a Stanley Cup, who got the Canadiens to the Stanley Cup a few years ago as well. You have Mikael Granlund, who used to be the Wild's leading scorer many years ago. Kind of went through a bit of a bumpy road, or he had a bumpy period in his career. But then with the Sharks, the opportunity was there, and he's seized it. And I'm not saying that those guys are going to be around when this team is a Stanley Cup contender, but you need those players there who can lead by example for your young players. And I know my viewers have heard me say this a billion times, but the other kind of move that I saw the Sharks doing in the offseason was Toffoli, because actually his wife is from south of San Jose.
Oh, okay.
She was actually my neighbor. She was actually my neighbor when we were growing up. So I haven't talked to her since our childhood days, but yeah, she's a cool gal. So yeah, I figured that they'd want to settle down somewhere after moving around so much, from LA to Vancouver to they were in Calgary, they were in Montreal, New Jersey, Winnipeg.
Yeah, that guy's been everywhere, honestly, the last couple of years. So it's good to see him again settle down in San Jose, and that surprised a lot of people. But hey, you just revealed some pretty cool info that I had no idea about. Now, staying with guys who came in this offseason, Jake Wallman came in from Detroit. Did that trade surprise you? Because that was one that really surprised me from a Red Wings perspective. My girlfriend's a Red Wings fan, and she flipped out when she saw that. And they traded him to San Jose for nothing. Gave him a second round.
And I have no idea how the Sharks were able to make that happen. And Wallman he's been fantastic. And I think he's still only like 27, so he could still be playing some great hockey when the Sharks actually are relevant, or the Sharks can see it as an opportunity to get something in return for him.
Yeah.
But damn, I mean, it is fun watching him out there. Considering the Sharks have been so thin with defensive talent recently, he's really stepped in and made a name for himself.
Now, we talked about Askarov a little bit, but when that trade happened, again, I think you said you kind of anticipated that. What was your reaction to the overall deal? And did you think there were some people who said, oh, San Jose gave up a little bit too much to get someone like Askarov? Do you kind of agree with that? Do you think San Jose pulled off the deal well, or do you think it could have, they gave up a first round pick, David Edstrom, and I think another goalie as well. So,
yeah, well, the big pieces, right? The first round draft pick and David Edstrom, those were from a previous trade. So those were
Yeah.
assets that we had acquired, and then we basically repurposed them to get a franchise goaltender. So I mean, I can't ask for anything better, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just honestly, I think that was a great deal for San Jose, and it loads them up on all ends. And it's just a matter of again developing them and getting them to that point. Now, to wrap up here, have you looked at the 2025 draft? Have you looked at some of those players, or is it too early? Is it too
Well,
early for you here?
I don't follow prospects a ton, but
Okay.
the only thing I've been paying attention to is how can the Sharks address their biggest weakness in their prospect pool? And I don't know if it's going to happen this year because the position that they need to work on the most is a right-handed defenseman. They don't really have that right now. They just traded for Timothy Liljegren, which hey, they didn't
I
give up
about that.
King's ransom for, but we do need that guy who's going to log 23 minutes of time on ice. Somebody who isn't going to necessarily be a Cale Makar or a Quinn Hughes, but I want somebody who is an imposing defender first and foremost, who does have a strong shot. I'm thinking a player kind of like a Shea Weber, or in today's NHL, somebody more akin to Moritz Seider, for example.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, to wrap up here, gonna ask you a few rapid fire questions. Who is your favorite player to ever play for the San Jose Sharks?
It's a 1A, 1B. It's Yevgeny Nabokov and Joe Thornton, and Thornton has his number retired this month. It's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Who has been your least favorite player to play through San Jose? Who is someone who pissed you off a ton?
Oh God, it has to be a trade deadline acquisition. Like Bill Guerin was a Shark, and he just didn't really get his rhythm that year, and then he was gone, right? So like he's kind of up there. I always say that the worst Shark that I ever saw was Alexei Semenov, who was 6'7" and just didn't really skate all that well. So it's kind of, you can think of those. Fans might tell you like Ed Belfour, right? Like
I
he
play for
was
the
not very
Sharks.
good with the Shark. I know, right? Like Ed Belfour was a Shark at one
I
point. Some
didn't
people
know
might
that.
not know that. Yeah, those are just some of the names that come to mind.
What is your best moment as a Sharks fan so far? Favorite moment? Maybe not best.
Yeah, it's hard to top Game 7 against the Golden Knights in 2019 since I was there. That would be up there. Um, shoot, I even saw one of my favorite moments was watching them beat the Kings 7-2 in a playoff game. I was, go to one of those games, and then of course the reverse sweep happened right after that. But
Yeah.
that's up there for me. Yeah, and just I think just reflecting on how fun it was when this team was, so competitive, like with Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau at the height of their career, and Yevgeny Nabokov, and just I also just think about the friends I've made along the way. Like I think of those memories, and those to me are as strong as the actual games and performances themselves.
What has been your most heartbreaking and or frustrating or angering moment as a Sharks fan? Can be a playoff moment, can be like a
Yeah.
trade, be someone leaving or retiring.
Jeez, that's tough. I think that it's not the I don't think it's the most like emotionally strong, emotionally negative thing, but I think that just seeing how the Eric Carlson trade kind of blew up in our face, considering the team dropped a ton 1 year after he had been there, and seeing that the Senators took that third overall pick and got Tim
Yeah.
Stutzla, how we sent them Josh Norris, and how Pavelski leaving is a huge piece of the Sharks' downfall. So that to me, it's a little bit more in hindsight because you don't necessarily see that all coming at once. But
Yeah.
that to me stings, and I'll be dead honest. Seeing the Golden Knights just shoot themselves out of a cannon that first year, as amazing of a story as that was, I mean that really you get so invested in your team doing so well for the better part of 15 years, and then it's like, well, wait a second, like, hey, don't we get ours at some point here? Why did they get theirs? And I'm sure that it's not just being a Sharks fan. Ask Canucks fans, ask Buffalo Sabres fans. I mean, it's like, what's it going to take for us to finally get one our way?
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. And lastly, who's your favorite mascot?
Besides Gritty and Sharky, ah, boy. I did a mascot rankings like what 2 years ago, and I think it might have been second place might have been Iceberg. And I know that you love hearing that. I mean, he's a classic. Harvey the Hound's a classic. I also think shoot, who else is jumping out at me here?
I'm a big
I'm curious to see what you.
I'm a big
What was
Yuppie
that?
guy. I like Yuppie. I mean, I like Gritty.
Yeah,
He's my number one, but I like Yuppie. I also miss Howler. Howler's
I
my other
know.
guy,
Howler was a good one. Yeah,
but I miss
I
Howler.
agree.
So
Um, Thunderbug's a little underappreciated too.
yeah, he's is he Tampa? Yeah, he's Tampa, right? Okay. Well, Nick, it has been terrific talking to you for this last half an hour, 45 minutes. Lastly, is there anything you want to plug? I'll have your YouTube channel in the link below this podcast if you guys want to go subscribe to Nick and see more of his content. But is there anything else that you want to kind of plug?
Sure. I mean, just in addition to Twisted Wrister Hockey, I am on Instagram, I'm on X, and we also have amazing merchandise, if I do say so myself. And it features our logo starring my dog Cortana, and she's even wearing
That's
she's even
awesome.
wearing our logo on a shirt right now.
I was
And
gonna ask you about your dog. I forgot her name. I used to know her name, but how old is she now? Because she's been around for a while.
yeah, Cortana in January will turn 11, but she still plays frisbee with me and catches the frisbee out of the air, and she still hikes 10 miles with me, so she's coming along very strongly. And yeah, so yeah, we do have merchandise. It's through Teespring. You can just, go to my channel and you'll find that there. And we take the logo, we actually recolor it for every single NHL team and even some defunct teams. So I have a pint glass with the Minnesota North Stars colors, essentially.
That's pretty awesome. Well, Nick, thank you very much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. Hope to have you on again sometime soon.
I'd like that, Evan. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for Twisted Wrister or Nick to join us. I know I've been saying Twisted Wrister Hockey all the time, but his name is actually Nick. So thank you for Nick for joining us for that sweet interview there. All right, let's get into some news around the National Hockey League before we go to our final thing. And I also have something I want to quiz Jack on, which is going to be very funny. So get ready for that. That's coming up. All right. Daniel Sprong has been traded from the Vancouver Canucks to the Seattle Kraken in exchange for future considerations. Very interesting move there. Sprong only played a couple of games with Vancouver before he was flipped over to Seattle. Seems like it just didn't work out in Vancouver. That seems like what it really came down to. And we've heard rumors about Sprong maybe not being a good teammate. His defensive metrics aren't that good. There's been a lot of negativity around Sprong overall, and he got a lot of criticism for being, not even getting signed until like August. So I don't know. It's an interesting trade, and we'll see where it goes from here. A couple of waiver talks that I want to talk about. We already talked about Lars Eller being traded, so I won't bring that up again. Dante Fabro was waived by the Nashville Predators and claimed by the Columbus Blue Jackets. So a good pickup there for the Blue Jackets, who again need money to stay above the cap floor. They also need good defensemen, and getting somebody like Fabro in there is interesting. I do want to bring up David Juracek. I talked about it in a video today about how Juracek, when he came into the league, he spent a lot of time in Cleveland. Then last season, he spent a little bit, like over half a season with the Blue Jackets, then got sent to Cleveland. So far this season, he has not played in Cleveland just yet, but he's been scratched for 11 games. It's a little bit concerning. That's something we'll talk about later on in
Yeah.
another topic that I have planned next week. But overall, for somebody like Juracek, who's a high draft pick, it's not a good look.
It's a lot of games to be scratched.
Yeah, especially for a young player like him.
Yep.
Also, we'll get into these two before I talk about the Blackhawks one. Capo Kakkonen was claimed by the Winnipeg Jets again from Colorado on waivers, and James Reimer was claimed by the Buffalo Sabres from the Anaheim Ducks on waivers as well. And then Andreas Athanasiou from the Blackhawks was placed on waivers. He is in the final year of his 2-year, $4.25 million deal with the Blackhawks. Jack, what's up with this one? Has he not looked good in Chicago?
He hasn't. Last year was good. He actually lives in my uncle's building in the city, which is cool. So he's seen him a couple times. Same with our GM Kyle Davidson. Off topic, but anyways, yeah, Anthony he's playing in Rockford now. He actually scored 2 goals yesterday in his first game there. So yeah, I feel like at some point he'll be back up. But yeah, I mean, there's just like no place for him really. I mean, he's got the speed.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I doubt he'll be in the AHL by then, but I'm actually going to see the Phantoms play the Ice Hogs in January.
Okay, sweet.
Oh, also Jack, I saw the ECHL affiliate of the Blackhawks.
Oh,
Fucked
the
us.
fuel.
They wrecked us. Yeah,
Did Indy win?
yeah, they shut us out 3-0.
Yeah, they're usually pretty good.
They are pretty good, and their
Yeah.
jerseys are kind of nasty too. I can't lie. They
Is it
got
like light blue?
no, it's actually red. Like
Okay.
it's similar to the Blackhawks, but it's like so clean.
I did not. I thought they were light blue for some reason.
They might have had like a third or something that was like light blue, but you guys rock the freaking reds. Like Rockford has kick-ass jerseys. The Blackhawks
Yeah.
is always a classic, and then
Yeah.
Indians are really good as well. So a little bit off topic, but
A
again,
solid red.
yeah, the red is always clean. Anthony Mantha is out for the season with an ACL injury and will undergo surgery. Unfortunate for Anthony Mantha as somebody who was going to be a possible trade piece for the Calgary Flames. Tanner Jeannot was suspended 3 games for a check to the head on Brock Besser. Jack, have you seen the hit?
I have not. Did you send it somewhere?
I just did.
Okay.
This is a pretty dirty hit. I got to be honest with you guys. It's clear head contact. It looks completely unintentional, or it looks completely intentional and unnecessary, is what I meant to say. It's definitely an illegal check to the head, and those are hits that you want to get rid of in the game. And I think that a 3-game suspension is perfectly right for that.
Yeah.
Jack, do you agree? Seeing that?
Yeah, I would agree. It's kind of late too. I don't know.
It is very late. That's
Yeah.
the thing. He throws away the puck, and then a good 10 seconds later, he comes in and just hits him.
Yeah.
Right away. So
Yeah, 3 games deserved.
yeah, it's definitely a 3-game suspension for sure. And then the last piece of news before we get into some trending players around the league, the NCAA has approved CHL player eligibility for Division I hockey. So basically, what this means is that this rule will allow players from Canadian Hockey League clubs, that being the OHL, the WHL, the QMJHL, to transfer and play in NCAA ice hockey programs. This is starting at the beginning of next season. So hypothetically, somebody from the USHL or the BCHL, or even let's say, I don't know, Jet Luchenko from Guelph, or trying to think of a Blackhawks example, somebody from the CHL could hypothetically, if they wanted to go from their team in the CHL over to play for with James Hagens in Boston College, they could do that now. So I mean, again, you got to work it out and you got to talk with the school and stuff about transferring, but you could do that, and it gives players opportunities for actually, if hypothetically, let's say a player in the CHL doesn't get drafted, they could go and then play college hockey and then maybe get another look. So it gives players options. It's pretty good news, to be honest, for the players.
Yeah.
But what it really does affect is the lower leagues, like the USHL and the BCHL. They aren't going to be as competitive as they've been. They won't produce a lot of draft picks like they have in previous years. But overall, this is pretty good news. I don't know how you feel about this, but I like this. This is good.
I like it a lot too. I wasn't completely sure what it meant at first. But yeah, I think I like it. I think I like it.
Yeah. So love to see it. Definitely something that I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to go. You've already seen a few guys transfer over, but yeah, we'll see. All right, let's move into trending players. A trending player that I have before Jack gives one of his is actually somebody not in the NHL. It is 3 college hockey players who are 17 years old, and they're playing college hockey. These guys are supposed to be in high school right now. So let me pull up their names real quick because I always forget how to say them. 1 second. The one name is impossible for me to say. All right.
Is it Russian or something?
Yes. So you have Sasha
Okay.
Boymedian, Chloe Morano, and Cullen Potter are the three guys, or two guys, one gal, who are in college hockey right now at 17 years old. Starting
What
off,
schools are they at?
so I'll get to that. Starting off with starting off with Sasha.
Yeah,
I'm so
Sasha.
sorry to hearing this. He actually is from Sweden. He played for the Youngstown Phantoms in the USHL, put up 27 points in or 49 games played. He actually went to internationals and put up 11 points in 18 games played with Sweden. He is currently in Boston University, has 2 assists in 9 games. Again, at 17 years old, he is projected to be a late first, early second round pick in this year's draft right now. So that's pretty cool. The girl who is Chloe Primerano, probably saying these names wrong, but she played in Kelowna for the U18 prep school team. Then she played internationally in Canada, put up 16 points in 6 games played. She has 6 points in 10 games played right now with the University of Minnesota. And she is a prospect for the PWHL draft next season, I think, or the season following. Not 100% sure, but great for her. And then the other guy, Cullen Potter, actually also played in the USHL, went to the World Hockey Cup Juniors U17, put up 8 points in 7 games, has 5 points in 10 games played right now with Arizona State University. He is a second round projected pick in this coming draft. So pretty cool thing. Again, like these guys turn 18 in February, all of them do. But I think it's still pretty cool to see guys who are our age. They're my age. They're a little younger than Jack, but
Yeah.
they are playing college hockey at that age, which shows how good they are and how impressive it is, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a pretty cool thing to bring up. But Jack, who you
Yeah.
got?
Call me biased all you want, but I got Peter Mrazek. He's standing on his head every single night. Nordic, I want you to watch the Hawks and Kraken tonight at 9 o'clock and just watch him. Just watch him in goal. He's everywhere.
Okay. I'll put it on. But yeah, Mraz, I give a lot of credit to him.
Yeah.
Has been standing on his head a lot. Oliver Ekman Larson hit 1,000 games. So props.
Okay, there you go.
He's a trending player. Also last night, Karel Vizmelka had a unreal game. Made 49 saves on 50 shots in Utah's 4-1 win. Had a .980 save percentage, and he had a 9.32 goals save above expected, which means you saved more goals than you should have. Carolina again had 50 shots on Utah,
Yeah,
and
I might need to pick him up in fantasy if he's there.
yeah, he
Jeez.
is just unreal. And then the last guy that I have is somebody that I talked about a couple of months ago. I made a TikTok on him. I don't know if the podcast listeners watch my TikTok, but whatever. I talked about a guy who was 6'11" from Russia who committed to Penn State. He is, first off, he grew an inch. He's 7 foot now, and he is scoring at a point per game pace in his Wilkes-Barre club, which is U16. He is unreal. 13 points in 9 games played. Also has 40 penalty minutes. So he is a draft eligible prospect in 2026. So he is somebody that you want to look out for there for sure. And Wilkes-Barre Scranton is not that far from me. It's like about an hour, or sorry, 2 hours from me. So I thought that was something cool to bring up as well. And then Jack, you got anyone else?
That's all I could find, yeah.
All right. Okay.
Jack Hughes look good.
Yeah, Jack Hughes also looks good too. All right. Would you like to wait to do our game until our last topic or now?
I'll go right now. Feeling
Okay.
confident. Not.
All right. So a few episodes ago, I think it was actually before the start of the season, or episode before the start of the season, we had Carter try and name all 32 captains. And he did pretty good, did it in 3 minutes and 11 seconds. We're going to have Jack do it now. And we're going to see if Jack can try and break that record. Jack, are you ready?
I'm ready. You guys are going to hear some very wrong answers. That's
all right.
All I'll say.
I will let you know if you're wrong on any of these. All right. Your time. You have to go in alphabetical order, by the way.
Okay.
So Anaheim, Boston, Calgary. If you need help with that, you know. All right. 3, 2.
Can you give me the teams?
Yes.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Boom. Anaheim Ducks.
Gudis.
Yes, there you go. Boston Bruins.
Marchand.
Yep. Buffalo Sabres.
Darlene.
Yep. Calgary Flames.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he stumped. He stumped. He stumped.
It's either Huberto or Backlund.
Just start saying names.
Backlund.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh my gosh.
Carolina Hurricanes.
Stahl.
Yep. Which stall?
Jordan Stahl.
Yep, there you go. Blackhawks. That should be very easy.
Foligno.
Yep. Avalanche.
McKinnon.
Nope.
Oh no, it's Landeskog.
Yep, there you go. Blue Jackets.
Okay. Who? What?
Blue Jackets.
Shoot. Jenner.
Jenner. Okay.
Cook.
Dallas Stars.
Say no. Ben.
Yeah, Ben. Red Wings.
Larkin.
Yep. Oilers.
McDavid.
Panthers.
Varkov.
Kings.
Kopitar.
Wild. Oh, this is gonna be a hard one.
Oh gosh, yeah, this is.
Here
I know it's not Kaprizov.
No, it is not Kaprizov.
Is it somebody who's been there for a while?
It has. It is.
It's not Spurgeon, is it?
It is Spurgeon.
Spurgeon. Okay.
All right. Canadians, you're halfway through.
Suzuki.
Yep. Predators.
Yossi.
Yossi, yes. Devils.
Hughes.
Nope.
Oh, it's Heischer.
Yep. Islanders.
Lee.
Yep. Rangers.
Fox.
Nope.
It's not Panarin.
Nope.
Shoot.
A little bit of an interesting one.
Yeah. It's the dirty guy, isn't it?
The dirty guy.
What's his name? I was pissed off when he got named captain.
You're not yeah, you were. That's right. I remember that. You aren't incorrect, but you have to say his name.
Oh my gosh. No. I don't know. I totally forgot his name.
It's the something train.
Come
on.
I don't know.
All right. You give up?
I give up.
All right. Jacob Trouba, Ottawa.
Trouba, yeah. What was the team?
Ottawa.
Tuck.
Tuck. Flyers.
Flyers, Couturier.
Penguins.
Crosby.
Sharks.
Couture.
Kraken.
Eberle.
Blues.
Shen,
yes.
Okay.
Lightning.
Shit.
He's gone. It's not him anymore. Who you're thinking of, probably.
Yeah. Is it Hedman?
Yep, it's Edmund. There you go. Toronto.
Matthews.
Yes. Utah.
Keller.
Yes. Vancouver.
Hughes.
Which Hughes?
Quinn.
Golden Knights.
Stone.
Capitals.
Ovi.
And then Jets.
Oh no, Shifley.
Nope.
He got stripped. Lowry.
Yep, there you go.
Uh-huh.
You did that in 4 minutes and 5 seconds.
Okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
What really killed you was Trouba.
Freaking Trouba, he's ruining my life.
If you got Trouba, you probably would have beat Carter or would have.
It's so annoying.
That wiped the 15 seconds off of you. You were 230 when you got to him.
Yeah, jeez.
So you were kind of killing it, but yeah, 4 minutes and 5 seconds for Carter.
That was not bad at all. I'll take it.
Or for Jack, I'll have to let Carter know. All right. We got one more topic here for you guys today. Then we're gonna wrap this one up. Might be a little bit of a shorter episode. I know the interview is gonna take a lot of our time up, but we're gonna talk about something that has really come to my attention. So I made a defenseman tier list for the first edition of my Tier Rank Tuesday on my YouTube channel, and I had a lot of people commenting on my Instagram, on my YouTube, on my TikTok, complaining about the fact that they think that Quinn Hughes is better than Cale Makar. So, Jack, I want to ask you this question after I read off each of these player stat lines because they actually have played around the same amount of games as each other. Quinn Hughes has only played about like 40 more. So I want to hear your input on this. So let's start off with Cale Makar. Makar in 332 games has 92 goals, 269 assists for 361 points. He has one Stanley Cup. He has a Calder. He has a Conn Smythe and a Norris Trophy under his belt. Quinn Hughes, on the other hand, has 379 games played, 46 goals, 303 assists for 349 points. And Hughes only has one Norris Trophy, one last season. So we're early on in both of these players' careers. Essentially, they have played the same amount of seasons. I think actually Quinn Hughes has played. They basically play the same amount of seasons. So, Jack, I want to ask you, ideally, who do you think is better, Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar?
Well, one of the main things that I look at is, are you doing like less with more, or are you doing more with less? And I think this year Quinn Hughes has a little more than Makar does. And I think like earlier in the career of Makar, he had much more than Hughes. It's like when I look at freaking Caleb Williams, he's doing less with more. I mean, you could blame it on whoever you want, but I'm not gonna get into the Bears because they're a whole nother mess right now. But yeah, this is a tough one. I think I go slightly with Makar. I mean, his trophy case is just unreal at his age. How old is he? Like 23, 24?
He is 26, actually.
26. Okay, I mean, still young, and
Quinn Hughes is
I mean,
25. So
I wouldn't be surprised if he has another cup or two.
and a few
And Vancouver just hasn't shown anything in the playoffs, so I'll go Makar slightly.
Is Vancouver not showing anything in the playoffs Hughes' fault though?
Not until I mean, he is the best defenseman on the team. Um, it's not his fault, but
I agree with you. I am leaning Cale Makar because listen, what I have seen from Cale Makar in the playoffs, what I have seen from Cale Makar during the regular season, he's been very consistent throughout his entire career. Hughes took a little bit to get to where he is now. Has only had 190 point above like a really good season, as opposed to Cale Makar, who has almost 290-point seasons under his belt. If he hadn't missed a bunch of games in 22-23 and in the shortened seasons in 2019-20 and 2020-21, he would have over 500 points. I stand by that.
I mean, another thing that I look at, well, like this is just a personal thing, but when I'm watching the Hawks against either Vancouver or Colorado, I fear Makar way more when he's on the ice. I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe that spinorama move he put on Doc that one time, that was terrible. But yeah, I fear Makar more.
Yeah, I think Makar is better. Not to put any discredit on Hughes, they're two very
no, not at all.
They're two really good defenders. I honestly, for a while, I believed Fox was better than Hughes. I'm starting to lean in the direction of Hughes being better than Fox, probably being the second best defenseman. But I got to be honest, when you're looking at terms of the careers, I would say Quinn Hughes, or not Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar is better. At least as of right now. Maybe we're just two idiots talking and we don't know what we're talking about. But again, I believe that Makar is better. Just saying it blatantly. And Makar's played less games than Hughes and also has more points than him. I know he only has like 11 more points than him, but still, it's still something that you got to look at in terms there. So again, I think Makar's better. All right.
Yeah.
That'll conclude this episode of the NORDCAST. Kind of a shorter one, maybe. I have no idea how long this recording is going to be. Jack, welcome back. Any final thoughts to wrap up your first episode back?
Yeah, it was good to be back. I'll try to be more consistent now.
I love to hear it. Love to hear that. All right. That'll conclude this episode of the NORDCAST. Thank you guys for watching. Just to announce, another Watch with Nordic is coming on Tuesday next week. So stay tuned for that. Thanks to Twisted Wrister for coming on, and we will see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to yet again another episode of the NORDCAST. If you enjoyed, please subscribe down below or follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want to follow us on TikTok, we are at NORDCAST. If you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, follow at NORDCAST_. That'll do it for this episode. I'm Nordic. Thanks for listening from all the crew, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.